Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. This is your host, Amina Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to another episode of NextGen, and this week's theme of humanitarian crises that are facing our world today. This week, we hope to speak on these crises to give the voice to those who are generally not given it by today's media and large mainstream media platforms. NextGen is a platform that hopes to amplify the voices of young people who, like I said before, are generally not given a platform by mainstream media. We're there on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and soon on Apple TV as well. Now, the crisis we'll be speaking on today is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. It's the worst humanitarian crisis in the past 100 years, with over 24 million people, about 80% of this country's population, who are in need of humanitarian aid and resources. This is the country of Yemen that we are speaking on today. In Yemen, 12 million children are also in need of humanitarian aid. Every 10 minutes, a child in Yemen dies due to completely preventable causes. Because of COVID-19 in Yemen, we're now seeing a crisis within a crisis. And to put all of this more clearly, to simplify it, think about it like this. If Yemen were 100 people, 80 of those people need humanitarian aid. 60 of those people have no food to eat. 58 have no access to clean water. 52 have no access to medical aid. 11 are malnourished. But again, Yemen is not 100 people. It is 29.8 million people in this country, 29.8 million individuals who are suffering. UN refugee agencies have said that in 21 days, Yemen will be out of fuel. Hospitals will be shut down. Yemen is in need of clean water, of food. In 111 days, Yemen will not have any rice. In another 97 days, Yemen will not have any fuel. These are 29.8 million people who are suffering due to this crisis in this country. This is a country that is near extinction. But that is if we choose to remain silent and not use our voices to amplify those who are oppressed in this country. And to discuss what is it that we can do? What is the situation in this country and the solutions to this crisis? We have with us Haifa Al-Khanshali.
Hi, Amina. Thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. It's an honor for us to have you. You know, I saw your speech at the Yemen protest, and I was in awe of the power that you had in your words, your vulnerability. It was truly, amazing. Just, a little introduction on Haifa. She's just a 22-year-old from the UK, but she started, raising her voice for Yemenis when she was only 15 years old by organizing charity events. She's passionate about the ongoing Yemen crisis and hopes to educate people about it. Thank you, Haifa, for being with us.
Thank you. Yeah, my voice a bit sore from the protest over the weekends, but honestly, on that speech, I just spoke there and then, like, completely unprepared. I just said what's going on. Like, just got to speak from the heart sometimes and just let people know, like, we can't just sit around and watch a country cease to exist.
I totally agree with you. Sometimes it's the ones that are spontaneous, or the speeches that we never prepare, that are the best ones. So, I just want to applaud you for what you did that day. If Haifa's speech, I'll link that, to this, so you guys can go and watch that. It was truly powerful. Haifa, you're incredibly courageous. But, during this pandemic, how have you been able to kind of continue the work that you're doing? You do a lot of organizing, reaching out to local politicians, and all of that. How has that work been, affected by COVID-19?
Well, this day and age, social media is just the biggest push we can do. Whereas, like, back then, when I started helping organising charity events, obviously Yemen wasn't in the situation it is now. It was still a bad situation, but it wasn't as bad now. So right now, it's not the best time to organise events anyway, because people don't want to be sitting there watching entertainment while people are dying in their own country. So the best thing now is using social media as the best we can, using the platform we have. Even if you only have 100 followers, 50 followers, that's still more than the people in Yemen that they have.
Yeah. So you're using social media in these times to kind of amplify the voices of your people. And just from the way you're speaking about it, I can tell that it's touched you. And before we go into kind of the effects that this crisis has had on the Yemeni people, let's talk about, some context. Let's give it some context, right? What are some of the causes that has led to the, war in Yemen, to give our audience some background? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so if we go back to the Arab Spring, after that, in about 2010, rebels started to gather and they forced President Ali Abdel Saleh to hand over to his deputy because he was in reign for a very long time. There was no democracy over there, there's no voting, it was just passed on. So obviously he was forced to give it to his deputy, Mr. Hadi, in 2011. And then when he took over, he struggled to manage the other forces like the jihadis, the Houthis, and there were some forces still loyal to Saleh. So he struggled with that. And then what the Houthis did, they took advantage of his weakness and started taking over the northern, so Sana'a, the capital, and all the surrounding cities around it. And then there was some Houthis loyal to Saleh, so they joined up, which caused the deputy or the president then to flee the country. So that's what really started this. So the Houthis kind of got in power, and then Iran came and backed the Houthis, and then Saudi always got involved, and then started. Right now, what they've done is close the borders, haven't they? And started to bomb the country, trying to get rid of the Houthis, but they're not aiming for the Houthis all the time. They've got school buses, schools, little villages. It's just getting worse, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You said that it's getting worse. So can you tell us, ever since the war started in Yemen, you gave us some context as to why it started, but what has been the situation now in Yemen, since this war is continued?
Right now, but it started from politics, but right now I don't believe politics is a big factor because, well, I said before, Saudi have blocked the borders, not allowing any outside aid to get in. Using their bombs to attack places where there's definitely no Houthis, no threat to them. There's no Houthis in school buses full of children. There's none in schools where children are just going to learn because that's all they know. They want to go to school and learn. There's none there. So it's only just getting worse, to be honest.
So do you think,
Especially
are they using their is politics being used to kind of cover up a lot of the crimes that are being done there?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the France, USA, the UK, and the UAE funding, selling their arms to Saudi to use. Mm-hmm. They're just using it as a cover-up, or they don't want the Houthis to take control of Yemen. But I guarantee you, if you ask anyone over there, it's a completely different scenario.
Yeah. So it's just one kind of aspect that we're seeing, which may be the political side or the humanitarian side, but both of those are very interconnected. So now I want to ask you, do you think that the Yemenis were ready for something like this? Were they well prepared for something like this? How has it affected them?
I don't think you could ever be prepared for the situation now, but Yemenis are very strong-willed people, but I feel could never be prepared, but it wasn't to go way back, Yemen wasn't in the very position to defend itself anyway. So it was definitely not prepared. The people weren't prepared, nothing, but they've handled it so well. The people back there, if you just see pictures of them, they've handled it so well, but they definitely was not prepared at all. You can never be prepared for something like this.
Yeah, that's very true. You said that they've been handling it very well. Can we talk about how the Yemenis have kind of reacted to the situation they're in right now?
Well, I don't know if you've seen a few pictures, but if you see it of all the rubble on the floor, sometimes you'll see kids playing football because that's all they've known. They go to school because that's all they've known. They've been brought up around this war. The main started in 2010. So that's 10 years ago. A lot of children, that's all they've known. That's all they've grown up with. So when they go out to play, this is all they know. So and the parents have obviously got to keep working to provide for their family. The children want to keep educating themselves to obviously get a job so they can provide for their family, because the parents can't carry on forever. So they're just, I feel like it's gone on for so long, this sort of coming accustomed to it, which is the worst thing ever. Like, that's what breaks my heart, seeing pictures of kids just playing football in all on top of buildings that just collapsed from the bombs. Like, this is all they've known. They wake up to this every day. That's all they know. They don't believe it's going to get better, because they don't know what's going on in the outside world. They're completely cut off from everyone else.
Wow, it's absolutely insane, and just saddening to hear that they've been accustomed to the war. It's all they've ever known. So I want to ask you something, a bit personal. Do you have family back in Yemen? How are they doing? How are they coping during this war, this crisis that's going on in Yemen right now?
Yeah, I have a lot of family back there. When I speak to them, I feel like they don't want to tell me too many details, because they know I'd get upset about it. But the only thing I can do from here is to send them money to provide for themselves. But it's not, I feel like it's not enough. Like, you can only solve this for, I kind of, when like me and my family obviously will send money every month, but that only solves their like problem now as a short term. It doesn't solve anything long term, which is why I'm doing other stuff back here in the UK, to help the whole country. But when I speak to them on the phone, I feel like they're not telling me. You can tell they don't want to tell me everything, but you can tell they're really suffering, especially over the years. Like, my nan's getting really, really sick, so obviously she can't get the medication she needs because the hospitals are down. They haven't got enough support to even deal with COVID-19, never mind like beforehand. So it's just terrible.
Yeah, and I'm sure it caused a lot of mental kind of trauma as well to the generations in Yemen, the younger kids especially, because you said they've gone accustomed to the war. How have been, how do you think just the environment of Yemen has been affected by, the worst humanitarian crisis that we've seen in the last 100 years? How has it affected the minds of these people?
I feel like Yemenis were always very strong, powered individuals who were able to get past a lot of things. So it's good that, alhamdulillah, they can push past what they see in front of them just to carry on. But I think a lot of them, especially the older generation, the parents, put on a brave face for their children so they don't get scared when they go out. So it's hard to. It's a hard one, to be honest, because it's the Yemeni people. Like, that's who they are. That's how they. Honestly, they're just so strong. Like, a few years ago when I visited Yemen, you can just tell, like, they're so passionate about anything. Like, they don't let anything put them behind. Like, they don't let anything stop them, because they know if that stops them, that's it. They haven't gone off and go. They carry on. They've got a will to carry on, and that's what a lot of people here need to. Like, how can we not have a will to carry on, but they can when they're living in that situation? And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we definitely need to take the courage from, them, and we have to allow it to kind of inspire us. I think many of us feel very let down. I've seen a lot of people on social media posting like my heart breaks for Yemen and things like that. And I want to talk to you about this because I feel like that's great, posting things to raise awareness. But don't you think people should do a bit more, right? Like, just posting my heart breaks for Yemen and posting a picture of a starving child is good to raise awareness. But if you're not posting petitions, donation links, is that enough?
100%. I agree with you 100%. Just retweeting a picture or reposting it on your story, it's enough for the first step, but the next step, it's not enough. You need to be doing more, signing petitions, getting it to Parliament, sending letters to, we have MPs over here, I don't know what it's called over there, but it's like the political leader of your city, yeah? Sending letters to them, or emails, and if they don't reply, you can tweet them. Like, I sent one to mine and she didn't reply, so I tweeted her and she replied to me, she follows me, and she DM'd me and said she's going to follow it up. Like, you can literally, you can get the details up anyway in the UK. On my Twitter, I've linked on my pinned tweet a way to get their details. You can get their address, their email address, and their Twitter, and you can just tweet them and harass them, because that's what they're there for. They're there to fight for us. Like, we voted them in power to voice our opinions and our beliefs. So no, just reposting something is not enough. You need to be even if you can't donate, it doesn't matter. Sign petitions, but even 50 pence does a lot. I imagine if everyone voted 50 pence, it'd be amazing. Like 50 pence might be nothing to us, but to them it'd be amazing. Imagine all of us are donating 50 pence. It's nothing. Like that's not even a bottle of water now. But over there it'll get loads. So the main thing is, yeah, repost, spread awareness, but also do stuff behind stage. Send letters to your MPs, harass them, and also educate those around you that don't know. Like when I go to work, I remember I was speaking to my work colleagues, and I was just like, "Oh, have you heard about the situation in Yemen?" And they were like, "No." So I had to sit there and educate them, and I don't mind doing that, but it's upsetting that I've got to go out and educate so many people because they don't know the thing. But if we all do it, if we all think it, we'll get enough outcry from the general public, which will raise more politicians getting involved, which would then lead it to get into parliament, which would then lead it to get on the mainstream media, not just social media.
Yeah, and Haifa will be speaking more on the humanitarian cost of this war right after our short break. You're watching us on Muslim Network TV. We're there on Galaxy 19 satellite, muslimnetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and soon on Apple TV as well. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to NextGen. I'm here with Haifa Al-Khanshali, and we're speaking on the crisis in Yemen. Haifa, how has this war led up to the humanitarian crisis that we're seeing today?
So obviously it's been going on for about 10 years now. So the way it's led up is no countries have been there to defend Yemen, to help it out. Only countries are intervening against. Like I said before, Yemen was never in a position to defend itself from the situation. So only for it to get worse, obviously it couldn't defend itself. And then with COVID-19, then joining, it genuinely just could not defend itself. So as the years gone on, it slowly deteriorated with the hospitals, the community, everything really. So the only reason it's got worse is because not enough people stood up and stopped it there and then. Now at the worst humanitarian crisis, and I feel like we can only blame ourselves. Everyone outside of Yemen, we can only blame ourselves because not enough of us stood up and said, "No, stop! Like it's not right what he's doing. It's completely wrong."
Yeah. So it's the fault of, ourselves for not intervening earlier. And now when we have the largest humanitarian crisis, a lot of us are like, how did we get here? But it's definitely because we haven't raised our voices, at the start of this crisis, at the start of this war. Let's talk about the human cost of this war and the human rights violations that we are seeing most definitely in Yemen. How are those looking like? What do those human rights violations consist of?
So actually, there's a organisation called Human Rights Watch, and in March 2020, so a few months ago, they actually released that Saudi Arabia are actually violating Yemen's human rights by using torture and wrongful arrests, enforced disappearance, they called it. So by also another way to say it, basically, when they've closed the borders and not allowing outside aid to come in, they've only allowed to feed off what's in their country, which is leaves, sadly. Like a lot of Yemenis are actually just picking leaves off the trees. It's a form of torture. There's no aid. There's no nothing. It is Saudi who are leading this, who are violating Yemeni's human rights. because they have the power to stop the bombs. They have the power to open the borders. They have no right to close our borders like that. They are violating our human rights. They're literally watching their neighbouring country starve to death in fear that the Houthis are going to take control. It's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. And anyone who believes that has not educated themselves enough or has only seen one side of the media that the media portrays. They need to dig deeper. They need to look at other media outlets and get their sources, because one media outlet is not enough, which is most media, because obviously the media is obviously funded by certain countries, aren't they? Yeah, so they obviously know what they want to say.
Yeah, and even in Saudi, the media is extremely censored over there. I was speaking to, someone about Saudi Arabia and the human rights violations that take place, and they were like, completely denying all of it. And I, it was obviously like an internet exchange, and I was like, are these people that brainwashed that they think that their country is free of sin? So obviously the media has a huge role to play in all of this. I want to continue speaking on the role of Saudi and the United States in all of this, right? Where do they stand?
So not only the United States, but the UK as well, they're not innocent at all. They sell their arms to Saudi. There was a law passed in the UK that said they'll stop selling their arms to them, but they haven't. So the UK and the US, they know what they're doing. 100%. They know what happens when they're selling their arms to Saudi Arabia. But the fact that they're still doing it just shows that they can get away with it. No one's standing up and saying stop. That's why I like to portray the message of put pressure on your political leaders, because they are not innocent. They know what they're doing and they can stop it. We are in a position, like thankfully we are in these countries, which is why I urge people in these countries to step up, because obviously our Yemeni brothers and sisters, they can't. So the UK and the US are definitely not innocent in this situation, 100% not innocent. They have the power to stop it. They have the power to intervene, but they choose not to.
Yeah. So what can we get our local politicians kind of involved to spread awareness, to raise their voices? Because a lot of them are quite eerily silent right now, and it's disturbing how many people are just sitting there quietly kind of watching. What can we do to put pressure on them?
So obviously the first step, spread awareness to those who don't know. Once you spread awareness, teach them how to take the next step. Tell them about signing petitions. Tell them about donating any money they can. Tell them to send letters to MPs. And if they can't be bothered, they're too lazy or they don't have the time, I've already wrote out a template, which is on my Twitter, on my pinned tweet. And all you need to do is add your name and their name. My obviously is tailored to the UK, but you can just change the details from the UK to the US and add how much money they've sent. But if you're in the UK, all you need to do is add your name and their name and click on the next link and find out their details. Like, it is not that hard to put pressure. It is really not that hard. But first step is definitely like telling those around you, because you might post it on your story on Instagram, retweet a tweet on Twitter. A lot of people just scroll past, or they see it and like, oh, there's nothing I can do. But if you speak to them face to face, over phone, over text, it's more personal. You can get into more details. They can ask you questions then, and you can answer them. If you don't know, tell them you don't know, and you can do a bit more research, or you can come and, I don't mind if you come and ask me and I can help you out. But the main thing is to get those around you to know, and then once they know and they believe with you and they have that passion you have, they can also help by spreading. They can spread awareness then and spread it to their families and their friends. They can sign petitions and then send to their family and friends. They can donate and send a link to their family and friends, and they can also send a letter to their political leader. And it's really not that hard. I've literally wrote out template. That's the reason I did it, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have the time, or I'm a bit busy, or it's a bit long. I wrote it all out. Like, all you need to do is your name and their name and send it off. It takes 2 minutes.
And it's kind of funny how some people are not even funny, I don't know what the word for it is, but how some people are being lazy when we have, over 12 million children in this country who are dying because of the situation there. So I don't think that we're at a time where people can be lazy. And another thing is, I think many people, due to social media, have become very desensitized to some of these things. They've, just not been so affected as they should be, right? Seeing a starving child should have an impact on us far different than maybe it's having on us currently. So, I just want to go back to the point of social media. Do you think it's beneficial in terms of causing actual change for this crisis, or is it being used very passively?
No, I do think social media is a strong way to get
Okay.
change 100%, because like me and you wouldn't know each other if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be on here if it wasn't for social media. Like, I've used social media so much to get this message out. I think it is one of the strongest tools we have, as the mainstream media is so biased, and we can't voice our opinions on there. And so here on social media, we can say the things we need to say. We can say the truths that are being hidden. So 100% social media is the way to go. As well, if you remember back to the Black Lives Matter movement, there was a massive uproar for that. But what was sad about that, it was more like a trend for some people.
Yeah.
That's why there was a big outcry for it. But maybe that's what we need for Yemen. I know it sounds a bit horrible, but maybe we need that trend to get more people to jump on the cause, spread out, and get more people who actually do care to join on. But
Yeah.
100% we can use social media as our best tool. I think it's the best tool we have right now, especially with the lockdown, 100%.
Yeah, so I think that it's definitely a platform that we have to be using wisely then. What are some things that people can do on social media besides just, I think we saw this with the Black Lives Matter movement. One of the things that made it a trend was that people would just, post a black square, for hashtag Blackout Tuesday, or people would just tweet hashtag Black Lives Matter, but not take a step more than that. So what can we do to kind of ensure that we're raising awareness about Yemen, but not just limiting it to being a trend?
I suppose that's when you just need to bring it out. I suppose that's when you bring the more personal side to it and start messaging people, talking to people about it more one-on-one. So I suppose social media can get it all out there in the beginning, but for it to stop being a trend, it's more making people personally care by touching their hearts by your words. Like, you don't have to be very emotional. Like, you don't have to know all the facts, but the facts are all in front of us. We all know the facts, like you said before, for 24 million, 80% of the population, one child dies every 10 minutes. Like, you all said these facts. If we just say them, that's got to sit in their head. Like, it's different reading it because you can skim over it, but when someone tells you, you hear their voice and you can replay it now and again, and then you think about it. So I think that's how we stop it being like a trend. So if we get it like I hate using that word with the situation, trend,
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? We
I
need
get
that
it.
outcry, and then once we get that outcry on social media, we can use more personal methods by speaking to them about it, letting them ask us questions, because I've had so many messages of people saying, hi, can you educate me on the Yemen crisis? Hi, I'm not too sure what's happened. And I'm sitting there telling them, I don't like getting political about it. I always leave my political beliefs out of it. But I always sit there and I educate them about the main stuff, and that helps me. Well, it helps them, and it makes me happy because then I see them tweeting about it. I see them retweeting my tweets, and I know most likely they've gone and tell people around them, because if they've had the courage to come and message me and ask me, they've obviously gone and thought about it and then gone to tell people. So when they hear the word Yemen, or they hear the word suffering, or they hear the word anything that links to it, they think, well, have you heard about the Yemen crisis? Like, what are you doing? So we can get the run on social media, get the push on social media, and then make it more personal by telling individual people more details and getting in touch in their hearts.
Haifa, I think that's why your speech, affected so many people. You kind of went a little bit viral on Twitter, right? Just a little bit. I think people need someone that's actually speaking to them directly. They need to hear the vulnerability in your voice, to hear kind of, just a one-on-one thing. And I think you're right. We do need to use social media as a general platform, but, just be open to answering and educating people, even though that I understand that can probably get a bit tiring, from your perspective. You said you had a lot of people, kind of flooding your mentions and your DMs. And I saw that personally myself, where people were asking you to educate them. Do you think that people should take that initiative themselves, right? Instead of reaching out to other people? I think now we just have, media that's so easily accessible, where you can just Google the situation, watch a couple of videos instead of asking someone. What do you think? What is the right answer to
I
that?
mean, you could educate yourselves, like a lot of people have educated themselves, but sometimes you might see the bias side. So I think once you see it and you don't know the situation, you should be educating yourselves like you need to be educating, getting the background with information. But if you have any questions, then I don't mind. But I think also with social media that you said about mentions getting flooded, I do receive a lot of hate from people saying like that's not right, it's not Saudi doing this, but they're people who don't know. And I try and educate them, but they don't want to be educated. So we're obviously going to meet them people. But main thing is, if you educate yourself by either researching or asking people around you that do know the situation, honestly, I don't mind answering the questions. Like, there's someone right now, I think he messaged me this morning, and I told him I'm a bit busy today, but I don't mind answering them all today. Like, I found the time to answer the questions because I know if I answer them, I've done something to help that person, which also leads to helping my country in Yemen.
Yeah. And Haifa, I can relate to that whole hate comments thing. I remember one time I posted a video of one of my speeches, right? And it was on the situation of minorities in India, and how Modi's kind of government is being quite oppressive to those who don't agree with them. And I had so many creative comments in my mentions. And I remember my mom was sitting next to me one time, and she was like, and it was, I think it was close to, it wasn't a very nice comment. Let's just put it like that, right? And my mom was a little concerned, and I just started bursting out laughing, and she felt a bit relieved that it wasn't, kind of getting to me personally. So, when we're out there kind of for a better cause, I think some of the times those hate comments don't really get to us as much. And Haifa will be speaking more on what we can do personally to aid the situation on Yemen after this short break. You're watching us on Muslim Network TV, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to NextGen. We're here with Haifa, and she's speaking to us about the Yemen crisis, the humanitarian cost of all of this. And Haifa, I want to ask you, right? As a young activist, as a young person who's vocal about how she feels about, the situation that's going on with her community, where do young people stand in all of this?
I think young people are the movement for the next generation. Like, my passion started when I was young because I seen my dad. My dad was my role model. He was the one organising the charity events, which got me involved in the charity events, which started my passion. So then I took over. My dad can't carry on forever, so I took over. So I think today the young people we are the move. It's up. The future is in our hands. We decide what is going to happen tomorrow. What I do today affects my tomorrow. What you do today affects your tomorrow. So us as young people, we have the power to move. So once, as young people, we can say that, how do I put into this words? We can educate those around us, because thank God we've got the internet, whereas back then they didn't have the internet to educate. We have social media, we know how to use it, we know how to utilize it, we know how to use it properly. Whereas the older generation, they're still learning on social media, they know how to properly use it. But us as young people, we have all these advantages. So obviously we can make this world a better place for the younger generation, for our kids, for their kids.
Yeah, indeed, Haifa. As young people, we do decide our future and the future of the generations that come after us. Now, what are some actual concrete things, efforts that young people can do? Can you explain to us some of the efforts that you've been doing yourself that young people can get involved in as well?
So we had the protest over the weekend in the UK. We had it in Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, and London, some main cities. So as a young person, you can attend them protests because obviously a big crowd attracts more people. So when you're walking through city centre with a massive crowd, obviously it's going to attract more people. They hear us coming before they see us. So more voices, the better. That's one thing you can go do, attend protests. Another thing you can do is spread away, repost stuff, retweet stuff, tweet about it yourself, get that platform going. Another thing, educate those around you, educate your family, because not all family might know them. Like I know my family obviously know because we are Yemeni, but if I was British or white British person, if my heritage wasn't Yemeni, I don't think all my family would have known about the situation in Yemen. My neighbours, they'll know now, but because of me. But before that, they wouldn't have known what the situation of Yemen. I can only guarantee the people watching right now, do your neighbours know the situation that happened in Yemen? So you can be the change that brings that. So the step you can take is attending protests. I know with COVID-19 going on, but socially distant protests, wear your mask. Like even if you're just at the back watching, it's still a crowd. It's still more people. So when people are driving past, when people take pictures on the phone, like I noticed when we were walking through city centre, people are taking pictures and videoing this on the Snapchats, on the Instagram. People watch that and like, oh my God, there's so many, like there must be something bad going on. And they Google it, they educate themselves and they learn more. Yeah. Another thing is signing petitions. It's really not that hard. Add your name, add your email, sign, done. Share the link. Easy. Another thing, donate. Like if you have a little part-time job or a full-time job, like just donate a little bit. Like that coffee that you might get in the morning, why not donate that instead? You can make your coffee at home, or all the money is saved by staying home during the lockdown. You didn't spend money on petrol, you didn't spend money on parking, you didn't spend money on transport. You might spend money on online shopping, but you still had money left over. You didn't spend money on your lunch money if you were going out for work. Any leftover money, even the tiniest bit, £1 does so much thing. I would just donate. And if you can't donate, ask your parents to donate, ask your neighbours to donate, ask your friends to donate. Even just share that link to people who can donate, who are in a position to donate. And another thing is mainly put pressure on your political leaders. We need to put pressure on our political leaders. They will listen to us if we come together. It's no good only 5 of us sending them the letters. We need a massive group because they can't ignore a big, massive group coming together. Like if their inbox is getting bombarded by all these emails, like they can't ignore us. We're right there. But another thing I forgot to mention, on the template, it might go into the spam folder. If you just change a few words, it'll be fine, just in case, because some them might have like a spam filter. But definitely put pressure on your political leaders. Like we are the change and we need to move.
Haifa, you gave some, amazing points, some points that people can take away with them. These are some things that, right after they finish watching this, after they finish educating themselves, they can go and tell, the people around them that may not be informed on this situation. But Haifa, what is the role of international kind of human rights organizations in all of this? Is the UN doing enough? Are these organizations that are supposed to kind of look out for these issues? How are they doing right now?
I think the UN could definitely do more 100%. They are there to protect the countries that can't protect themselves. They are there to fight for those who can't protect themselves. And I personally don't think they're doing enough. They are in that position to help those. And the way Yemen has worsened over the years, they're definitely not doing the job properly. They're in a position to force the UK and the US to intervene and put pressure on Saudi and cause a ceasefire, open the borders just for charity organisations to come in and let aid come in. Like, a lot of charity links are mainly people who have family in Yemen through the GoFundMe website, and they're spreading the money around those around them. But charity organisations also need to get in. They're struggling to get the aid in. They used to have offices there. Like, I'm not sure if they still have access to them offices anymore because of what Saudi are doing, but 100% the UN need to step up. They're in a position to do so much more, and I think they've slacked completely, especially when it comes to the Yemen situation. They've definitely turned a blind eye. Like, sometimes you'll see them spread a few quotes on a few websites. If you look at UNICEF or Save the Children, you'll see the UN have broadcasted a few links on there, but it's still, they're not doing enough. They need to intervene more. 100%. The UN are not putting enough pressure on Saudi, on the UK, on the US. 100% not.
Yeah. And Haifa, another thing is, the role of international kind of powers, international law, and getting justice for the Yemeni people. Do you see the United States and Saudi Arabia being held accountable for their actions, or what is the future for these countries in terms of getting justice for Yemen?
I really, really pray and hope that we do get justice for Yemen. I really do. But in my eyes, that can only happen if we all come together and join forces, unite, and fight for the injustice that's going along across the world. Like, it is a country full of people like us. They are no different to us. We all bleed the same blood. We're all completely the same, but we turn a blind eye. Why? It can't. Yemen 100% will rise. I know for a fact it will rise, and those who stayed silent will regret it. They will rise, but we need to come together. Like, sooner or later it will. I am 100% certain Yemen will rise. Like, I pray that I see that day, but it needs to be now. Because I can't watch a country suffer anymore. I can't read headlines anymore that says Yemen will cease to exist. I can't. Like, we need to come together now and spread awareness now and stand up together. The only way we can actually stand up for the injustice that's going on in Yemen is we all come together, stand together, and share our voice. We've all got one voice. We need to voice that voice. And definitely, them countries will be held accountable. We just need to come together and show them we won't be silenced. They tell us to stay down, but we stand up. We're not staying down.
Yeah. And indeed, Haifa, the time to make change is right now, right? It's already very late, and if we don't raise our voices right now, it's going to be too late. And I want to end on one thing. I want to ask you, what is the most important thing that non-Yemenis can do to amplify the voices of Yemenis, right? How can we be good allies, effective allies that don't, kind of just be at the forefront, but, push other Yemenis' voices out there?
So with the protest that went on in the UK this week, I noticed there was a lot of Yemenis attending, which was quite sad, to be honest, because it's not just a Yemeni problem at all. How can you stand by and watch kids die every 10 minutes? How can you read that headline and not think that's not right? It's just, with non-Yemenis, I believe they have more power than Yemenis, as it looks like, oh, this is not a Yemen only situation. This is not a Yemen only problem. Like, we are a humanity We are humans. We all have a soul. Like, if it was another country, if France, like I said in one of my speeches, if it was France, the whole world would be crying with France. Like, when Notre Dame burned, the money raised for that was like this. But when it's lives in Yemen, it's a different story. People want to turn a blind eye, but why? Like, there's no difference between them and France. What's the difference between Yemen and France? Just because Yemen started off lower, it has no difference. Coffee come from Yemen. How can you sit there and drink coffee when us Yemenis give it to you? I just don't understand. Like, the non-Yemenis do need to stand with us, because we can't sit by and just make it look like a Yemen problem. Because when the mainstream media see us and see it's mainly Yemenis present in it, they'll think, oh, it's a Yemen problem. The general public don't care, because we're only a small population here. The non-Yemenis obviously much bigger, but when I see non-Yemenis standing up with us, I get so happy. Like, it honestly melts my heart, because then I know we're not alone. We have those, but it's honestly so heartwarming to see non-Yemenis standing with us. But we do need the support of non-Yemenis, obviously, to help amplify our voices, because it's not just our problem, it's the world's problem.
Yeah, in Haifa, as non-Yemenis, we're still Muslim brothers and sisters, right? We're still brothers and sisters in humanity, regardless of where we come from, and it's our duty as all of us to amplify the voices of those who are suffering in Yemen. Thank you so much, Haifa. It was an honor and pleasure to speak to such an activist like you. And thank you to our audience for tuning in today. Tomorrow we'll be back with another episode on the Palestinian crisis that is going on. And we will be back and continue to speak on these humanitarian crises this week. Thank you so much, and stay safe. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.